Trooper Cody's video, and here we are on the 7th of May 2023. It was King Charles's coronation yesterday. We watched it on TV last night. Here we are in Australia, 10.5 hours ahead of the UK. So obviously watched the coronation primarily, I'm sorry King, primarily for the horses and the spectacle of the cavalry. And weren't those horses magnificent? I'm sure it's on YouTube. If you didn't see it, have a look at it. And fair dinkum, that woman, Princess Anne, see her riding in the pouring rain on her horse to the ceremony, then on her horse back from it, and then afterwards jumps off the horse and standing chatting with people. What a legend that woman is. Just spectacular to watch, as were all of those horses, of course. So really part of what I'm showing you here, as I say, it was the coronation just yesterday. Last night we watched it. Pouring rain in London. I know I might not have mentioned this before, but I was born in London, and my mum, my birth mother, stayed in London when my dad and I came to Australia in 1964. There's a long story, fair dinkum. Anyway, and I regularly go back, would regularly go back and see my dear mum. She passed away a few months ago. Yep, there's another bloody story. But anyway, and so I was born in London, and I lived in London till I was 11, and then I'd go back to London on a regular basis. And for the last 20 years or so, I'd be going back to London every 12 months. 1 month in 12 was spent in London. Now, I don't know if you're getting the perspective truly of this video that I'm making. Can you hear the traffic? No, there isn't any. Can you hear the neighbours? No, they're half a bloody mile away. You might hear the wind maybe, but that's about all. And so once a month of every 12 I would go and spend it in the heart of London. The suburb was called Muswell Hill. Muswell Hill. Beautiful spot. Top of a hill, not far from the centre of London. You could go and stand at a place called Alexandra Palace and look, and you could see the River Thames and the tall buildings along the Thames. You could see the eye. Actually, you could go to the main street of Muswell Hill and look and see the eye. That's how close Muswell Hill is to the centre of London. And you know, Mum Street, I better not mention it, but Mum Street, you couldn't park in Mum Street because there's just so many cars. It's choked with cars. And when you live in London, you pay about 250 to 350 pounds sterling a year to the local council for the privilege of parking in your own street. Most houses don't have driveways, and you have to park in the street. The streets are choked with traffic. You have to hope to find a park in your street. Maybe you won't. Maybe it'll be around the corner somewhere. The roads and streets are so choked with parked cars. There's painting on some footpaths or pavements to show that you're allowed to park on the footpath. And when you're trying to get past in some of these places, if you've got a pusher or a pram or a walking frame, you can't get between the cars that are legally parked and the house fence. That's how bad the parking is, that you've paid 250 to 350 pounds a year for anyway. But you think that's bad. Well, if you own a car, you've got to pay another £12.50 sterling per day for the privilege of driving your car in the congestion zone. And that's stretched. It's quite large now. Muswell Hill falls into that area. And so If you lived where my mum lived and you wanted to park your car, you'd be paying hundreds of pounds a year for the privilege of parking. Then you'd be paying £12.50 for the privilege of driving on any particular day. You want to take the kids to school? Ka-ching, £12.50. But it gets worse, because then if your car is over 6 years old, 6 years, that's not very much. If your car is over 6 years old, ka-ching, it's an additional £12.50p. So you want to take the kids to school and your car's over 6 years old, £25 sterling a day, every day, day after day. And the cost of electricity and the cost of food and the cost of fuel and the queues and the congestion, and you get on the tube and the bus. Let's talk about the tube, the Underground Railway. What a wonderful thing. My God, what a fascinating video that would make. I'll have to talk about the tube. When you're an Australian, I'm not sure about Americans, but when you're an Australian, you have got no idea of the definition of personal space when you are on the tube. Oh my God, the story I could tell of one time when I had to take one of my sons, came with me, stayed with mum with me, and I was staying on longer. He was coming back to Australia, and I was taking him to Heathrow on a jam-packed tube, and I managed to get a seat, and a woman... No, I better not tell that story. Anyway, that's maybe for another video. We'll put an X rating on that. Anyway, this has all got a bit carried away. It was supposed to be a quick video about the King's coronation in London and the crowds and the rain. And you know, it was wonderful to watch that coronation and know that I had walked many, many times along the Mall, through the arch, around the corner. They didn't show it in that video, where the Queen would have her big parade each year. But I'm starting to rave and reminisce as an old man does. But anyway, here you go. If you were watching the coronation last night in London with the crowds and the traffic and the congestion, this is what I'm going to leave you with. Where we live, 200 kilometres to the nearest set of traffic lights. I'm just letting that run so that you can hear it. All right, mate, time to get that saddle chucked on you. Let's hit the road. Cheers.